tensions in Europe increase.
Kung magkakaroon ng aberya in the supply chain, no? Because we don't know if in case really the war spread, no, and there might be some sort of delivery delays, no, disruption, kailangan mataas yung nakaimbak natin na supply.
This forms part of the overall recommendation of the government's economic team to cushion the impact of increasing oil prices. Other measures include a doubling of the fuel subsidy for PUV drivers from 2.5 billion pesos to 5 billion pesos. The Energy Department is also appealing to fuel companies to continue their promotional discounts of up to 4 pesos per liter for PUV drivers. Chrissy De Matulak, CNN Philippines.
Despite the government promising a bigger fuel subsidy for public utility drivers, transport regulators can't give in to their appeal for a jeepney fare hike just yet. But as Amor Santos reports, commuters should still brace for a possible fare increase.
Commuters will still pay 9 pesos for the minimum jeepney fare for now. Regulators take up petitions to raise fares by up to 6 pesos in Metro Manila, Central Luzon, and Southern Tagalog. But they are not yet convinced. So another hearing has been set for March 22. The first petition filed by groups One Utak, Pasang Mazda, Alto DAP, and ACTO calls for a 5 peso minimum fare hike plus a peso more per kilometer. Another group, the LTOP, wants the minimum fare at 15 pesos, but the LTFRB asked them to amend the petition first to clarify the request. One Utak Chairman Vigor Mendoza says drivers need to shell out up to 1,200 pesos more for fuel. Pending action on the petitions filed in January, transport groups have asked regulators to revert the minimum fare to 10 pesos. They recall that the government approved a 2 peso fare hike in 2018, but provisionally lowered it to 9 pesos by year-end as diesel prices dipped as low as 38 pesos per liter. The group say it's a far cry from current prices of more than 60 pesos per liter.
Ngayon kami na nahihirapan. From 49, 42 to 49, 8 pesos to 10 in-approve nyo. Ang minimum wage during the time, karehas din ngayon at saka noon. Anong dahilan? Kung makitang dahilan para hindi ibalik yung 10 muna dahil kailangan namin. Yung piso kasi, malaking bagay sa driver yan. Makapagsakay ka ng 200 paseros, that is 200 pesos.
After constant appeals, LTFRB Chairman Martin Delgre said the request for a 1 peso minimum fare increase is now up for resolution, pending evaluation of the main petition.
Dapat yan, ilabas nila decision district lang. Napakadali lang kasi yung decision yan. Decided case na itong 10 pesos.
Transport groups say they will submit in the next hearing receipts and documents to support their petitions, hoping regulators will finally give their green light. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
Cost-oriented groups demand that the Duterte administration take tougher measures to curb soaring oil prices. The women's group Gabriela marked International Women's Day with a protest. They called on the president to convene Congress for a special session. Gabriela says suspending the excise tax under the train law can slash diesel prices by 6 pesos per liter, 10 pesos for gasoline, and 3 pesos per kilo for LPG. After being barred from reaching Mendiola, protesters gathered at the Liwasan Bonifacio to also denounce the candidacies of Bongbong Marcos and Sara Duterte.
Ito ba ang ipapatikim at iiiwang legasiya ng administrasyong ito? Matinding pagtaas ng presyo ng bilihin, malawakang kagutuman at kahirapan, yan ba ang gusto niyang matandaan? Kung yan ang gustong matandaan ni Pangulong Duterte, tingin namin bakit natin bibigyan ng chance yung kanyang anak at yung katambal ng anak niyang anak din ng dating diktador.
Gabriela is pushing the candidacy of Leni Robredo, the lone woman presidential candidate. COVID-19 shots will be made available in doctors' offices and clinics on the 4th round of the national vaccination days. The Pandemic Task Force partnered with the Philippine Medical Association to bring the vaccines closer to more Filipinos. PMA President Benny Atienza says the organization has around 80,000 members, but they have yet to finalize how many members will participate. Secretary Vince Dizon says the storage capability will also have to be checked to determine the brands of vaccines that can be used.
DOH ang magpapadala ng supply Ang i-check lang ay yung capability to store nung mga clinic. Siyempre, hindi naman pwedeng walang kapasidad na mag-store.
Mahirap nang hanapin yung mga iba pa na either nag-iisip magpabakuna o walang time magpabakuna, those who do not see the urgency. So we are providing this partnership as a way of access para sa mga kanilang mga pasyente na tinitignan nila, nagpapakonsulta sa kanila, bigyan na rin ng ating mga bakuna.
The government aims to vaccinate and boost 1.8 million Filipinos from March 10 to 12. We have more stories ahead. Some Filipinos find it hard to heed the government's mandate to flee war-torn Ukraine. And President Duterte appoints new officials to the Commission on Elections a little over 2 months before the Filipino votes. Details after the break.
With this new Galaxy S lineup, we are set to bring the epic standard for premium smartphones. We have created an entirely new Galaxy mobile experience with the Galaxy S22 Ultra. And for the first time, the S series will have the Galaxy's signature S Pen built-in. Now, for those who want devices that fuel creativity and self-expression, the Galaxy S22 and Galaxy S22 Plus can help make every moment epic. We also welcome a new addition into our ecosystem, the Tab S8. Premium cameras, super fast connectivity, batteries that last you all day, and of course, innovative new ways to share. And that is everything that the Galaxy brand is known for.
Uy! May free delivery! Basta McDo free delivery, di kailangan pag-isipan. Diretso na sa new McDelivery app. Sarap! Download now!
Isang hope ko sa Pilipinas, yung lahat tayo nakakakain 3 times a day.
Give essential services to last mile schools or far from communities.
I wish mawala na yung corruption.
I hope that our country can talk openly about their mental health conditions.
For everyone to realize that we're all interconnected.
Na Philippines that recognizes, acknowledges, and respects my worth.
My hope is for people to choose to speak up.
What is your hope for the Philippines?
Welcome back to Newsnight. Again, our top story, this year's biggest oil price hike takes effect today. Economic managers laid out plans to cushion the impact of rising fuel prices, but these do not include what many have been calling for. Our senior correspondent Lois Calderon reports.
Duterte's economic team has charted a way to deal with rising oil prices. From multi-billion peso subsidies for jeepney and tricycle drivers, to cutting import duties on pork and rice, or allowing foreign ownership in grids, solar and wind energy, the battle plan is comprehensive. But the controversial tax on oil is missing. Briefing materials presented before the president Monday night showed Duterte's economic managers did not recommend lifting or suspending the excise tax and value-added tax or VAT on oil and coal. It's what the power producers wanted, but it meant losses in state revenues. Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez tells CNN Philippines that the government needs funds, as the subsidies for marginalized groups like farmers and jeepney drivers have been doubled. With the Philippines heavily reliant on imported fuel, food prices are the next big headache. The Trade Department met with retailers and manufacturers Tuesday. The supermarket group says suppliers have already jacked up food prices.
Based tayo sa mga raw materials galing abroad. Wheat galing abroad, trigo, no? Ang dami nating raw materials na galing abroad, so you're at their mercy. That
Food producers, retailers, and the Trade Department are at a deadlock. Consumers will feel the brunt.
hindi naman talagang kailangan, pagkasunduan eh. The point lang is, ang DTI, syempre, is asking manufacturers, huwag munang magtaas. Or kung magtataas, mamili ng items. Or kung may items na itataas, i-temper lang. Pwedeng staggered din.
2% ngayon. After 5 months, another 3%. Ganun, di ba? Staggered. Huwag yung sabay-sabay kasi mabigat sa mamimili.
To address food security amid the oil crisis, Socioeconomic Planning Secretary Carl Chua has asked President Duterte to extend lower tariffs on imported rice and pork until December. The Philippines last year cut tariffs on imported meat, but the directive will expire mid-2022.
In terms of the tariff reduction po, since Congress is not in session, we will submit request for the issuance of an executive order. And there are dalawa lang po na kailangan ng batas. Mr. President, if the situation escalates, we could recommend a special session.
Mas mabuti pa okay, pag-isipan na lang natin yan. Kung itong recommendations ng NEDA is really vital to keep the economy humming.
Lois Calderon, CNN, Philippines.
More civilians seeking safer ground in Ukraine as Russian troops continue to pound residential areas on day 13 of the invasion. Ukrainian officials have agreed to an evacuation corridor in the northeastern city of Sumy. That city has sustained Russian attacks and airstrikes where at least 9 civilians were killed. Ukraine earlier rejected proposals from Russia to open up humanitarian corridors. They said the routes lead to Russia or its staunch ally, Belarus, and would require people to travel through active areas of fighting. The United Nations has called for safe passage for civilians from hot spots in Ukraine. Meantime, Filipino nationals there also caught in the crossfire between Russian and Ukrainian forces. The government on Monday ordering their mandatory repatriation from the war-torn country. But as Tristan Odalo reports, some Filipinos still want to wait until it's safe to leave Ukraine.
Nearly 2 weeks into the Russian invasion of Ukraine, some Filipinos are still facing the tough decision of whether or not to leave the war-torn country. Among them is Rhea Taibov. She says she is safe with her family, but the situation is fluid. The Foreign Affairs Department has raised alert level 4 for Filipinos in Ukraine, which means they need to leave the country immediately.
Ang problema po, sir, is sa Lviv po yung meeting point nila or sa Kiev, and that's a very dangerous place po to go at this time po. So even if we want to come there, sir, parang it's like impossible for us to travel.
While waiting for an opportunity to evacuate, Rhea opted to visit an evacuation site in their area, now hosting thousands of refugees. She also tried to keep the bayanihan spirit through a donation drive.
Nag-short din sila ng food, ng mga water, yung mga basic needs po ba, sir, kasi sobrang dami po nila.
The government is on full swing to bring home our kababayans who evacuated from the conflict. 21 stranded seafarers from Ukraine arrived in the country on Tuesday. In the meantime, France is expressing grave concern over the conflict possibly spilling over to other parts of the world and in the Indo-Pacific region.
And we could transfer this reality in Europe everywhere in the world. A stronger power attacking another one because she is smaller and unable to defend. I note in this part of the world that North Korea decided to support Russia. So it's another main concern for me.
Former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert Del Rosario echoes the sentiment and says that the Philippines must be ready to take concrete actions to address the consequences of the Ukraine-Russia war. Apart from the safety of Filipinos in Russia and Ukraine, former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert Del Rosario adds that a successful invasion of Russia of Ukraine could be a model for other superpowers or big countries to follow suit. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
President Duterte appoints new officials at the Commission on Elections 62 days before the Filipino votes. Saidamen Pangarungan is the new COMELEC chairman. He was former secretary of the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos and ex-governor of Lanao del Sur. George Garcia and Amy Neri round up the new commissioners. Garcia is a veteran election lawyer who represented a number of politicians, including Bongbong Marcos, in his electoral protest against Vice President Leni Robredo in 2016. Neri was an undersecretary at the Department of Social Welfare and Development. Poll watchdog Contra Daya questioning the appointment, saying Pangarungan and Neri have no track record for their position. The group also raises Garcia's previous role as Marcos's lawyer. But Malacanang says the new officials went through strict vetting. COMELEC also addressed concerns of a possible conflict of interest.
Of course, the COMELEC is very happy about the news that we have new commissioners and that we are going to be facing the 2022 elections with a full slate of commissioners. If it happens that there's a possible conflict of interest, then certainly they will deal with that appropriately, I think.
Para sa akin naman, kahit ako lawyer, siguro nga, wala naman ako magagawa dahil parte ng pagiging lawyer yun. But I will be visiting in all the cases that I handle.
Another former Garcia client, presidential candidate Isko Moreno, also sees nothing wrong with the election lawyer's appointment.
Official naman yun. Hindi naman naikoble. But he resigned. Of course, wala na siya sa amin. Things are being considered pa. Because kahapon pa lang nangyari at official na ngayon. So I'm happy for Attorney George dahil talagang ang specialty ni Attorney George is election law. So I think that position is fitted sa kanya.
The Supreme Court issues a temporary restraining order stopping the COMELEC's controversial Oplan Baklas or its takedown of campaign materials. COMELEC has 10 days to comment on the petition filed by supporters of presidential candidate Vice President Leni Robredo. Robredo supporters filed the case before the High Court after the poll body took down oversized campaign posters even within private property. On the campaign trail, Bongbong Marcos visits Bulacan province again. This comes after Vice President Leni Robredo's grand rally in Malolos City last Sunday, with her camp claiming over 45,000 people showing up. Robredo also got the endorsement of Daniel Fernando, governor of the country's fifth most vote-rich province. Fernando's rival, Willie C. Alvarado, is backing Marcos. He also spoke up about Robredo's rally in Malolos.
Ang mga tao po'y madaling mabulag sa mga nakikita. Pero ang totoo, ito ba yung mga tunay na nagpunta o ito'y... Well, I don't want to comment on that. Hindi nakangulong ang maraming nanonood po sa iyo. Panalo ka na.
Robredo is back in Mindanao to woo voters in the Caraga region. She visited various cities in Surigao del Sur and gave a speech at a summit for International Women's Day. Presidential candidate Manila Mayor Isko Moreno says he's willing to cut down motorcade routes to help save fuel amid the price increases. This comes as he appealed to Congress to consider his proposal to cut tax on oil and electricity by half. Moreno also says he's still open to campaigning in Davao City, even after vice presidential candidate Sara Duterte banned motorcades and caravans, partly because of the oil price hike.
Kanina, di ba? Meron pa kami isang bayan, tumigil na kami. Pero pinipilit pa rin namin na makapasok sa loob-looban at nilalapit na namin sa kanilang tahanan. Pwede naman ako maglakad sa Davao. Maglalakad tayo.
The local party of Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte endorses the vice presidential bid of Senate President Tito Soto. Members of the Serbisyo para sa Bayan Party and officials from more than 140 villages expressed support for Soto. But the party has yet to back a presidential bet.
I'm very sure that Senator Lacson is one of these being considered by the leadership of Quezon City. And I have sponsored his endorsement.
So when it came to discussing presidents, hindi kami nagkasundo ng members of the party. And I'm not an authoritarian leader. I like to consult with the members. So it is still possible that the party might later on endorse a president.
Soto is the father of Joy Belmonte's running mate, Gian. Soto failed to get a consensus for his party, the Nationalist People's Coalition, to support his running mate, Ping Lacson, the VP candidate, who is also the party chairman, explains some NPC members already made commitments to other presidential bets.
And merong mga ibang mga kasama kami na open pa kasi yung may problema sa commitment. Yung mga dating unang nalapitan ng mga ibang kandidato, so hindi naman basta madali sa kanila yung basta na lang magpalit. Diba? So ang nangyari, ang bulong-bulong namin ay pakiramdaman na lang muna at baka pwedeng ibang mga kasama namin ay bumitaw na doon sa mga iba nilang endorsement.
Straight ahead on Newsnight, it is, quote, one gold medal loss for the country after Filipino pole vault star EJ Obiena was excluded from the Southeast Asian Games lineup. But the future is bright for women with this new center seeking to create a safe space for every Filipina. Stay tuned to CNN Philippines.
Conquering the universe was the ultimate, but there's more. Dahil tinawag ko ako ng Panginoon for a major purpose. To guide the youth, help communities, and to bring others closer to Him. Kaya I take care of my health through proper diet, exercise, and MX3 capsule. I am ready to serve. Kasi para sa Panginoon, hindi lang ako fourth runner-up. First place ako sa puso niya.
Mahalagang paalala, ang MX3 capsule ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Uy! May free delivery! Basta McDo free delivery, di kailangan pag-isipan. Diretso na sa new McDelivery app.
Sarap! Download now! 1, 2, 3!
You're watching Newsnight on CNN Philippines. The Athletics Track and Field Association is standing its ground, keeping pole vault star EJ Obiena out of its list for the Southeast Asian Games in May. Philippine Olympic Committee President Bambol Tolentino calls the exclusion, quote, one gold medal lost for Team Philippines, unquote. Patafa and Obiena have been in dispute for months over allegations that the Olympian misused funds from the association. Obiena off the list also means he will miss the World Indoor Championships in Serbia from March 18 to 20 because the World Athletics deadline for registration was last Monday. K-pop news now. Blackpink member Rosé treats Blinks to her first ever vlog. The vocalist documented her baking class on French cakes called Madeleines. Less than a day since posting, the video already has over 1.5 million views. In teasing the vlog on Instagram, Rosé assured fans that she's doing well after catching COVID last month. The star finished self-quarantine on Sunday. On this International Women's Day, we look at some issues facing women and how a newly opened space for them hopes to provide livelihood and health support. Paige Javier has the details.
Amid the pandemic, women and girls are dealing with something other than health concern. They're also protecting themselves from violence. A social weather station survey last year showed 1 in 4 Filipino women cited violence as a top concern in this pandemic era. The United Nations also reported an increase in violence against women in many parts of the world during the initial raging days of the health crisis. And as advocates call for more protection for women, the country saw a major change via a law that had been on the table for over 2 decades. President Rodrigo Duterte finally signed into law a bill raising the age of sexual consent from 12 to 16 years old. Many believe the move will protect not just girls, but children of all genders. And to celebrate the International Women's Day, a diversified conglomerate wants to give more support to women. Women need a lot of help now, especially with, what's going on. I think there's a lot of mental health issues that need to be addressed, a lot of physical health issues that need to be addressed. While battling the pandemic, many women, especially mothers, had nowhere to turn to. San Miguel Foundation launched a center for women focused on health, empowerment, and recovery in Cubao, an area known as the heart of Quezon City. They teamed up with AHA Learning and Likhaan Center to bring services closer to women in this part of the city.
Masaya po kami na merong ganito na dito sa Cubao kasi sa panahon po natin ngayon, kailangan talaga ng mga magulang ang suporta para po yung naranasan natin during pandemic medyo maibsan.
Maganda rin siya para sa mga nanay na katulad namin na mabigyan pa ng pagkakataon kung ano man yung gusto nilang gawin sa kanilang buhay.
Nearly 400 mothers will take part of the pilot programs on gender equality and livelihood. San Miguel Foundation Vice Chairman and Trustee Cecil Ang encourages collaboration.
To everyone here in Cubao, please make this your center. We want to do so many things here with you and we're open.
The center will also serve as a place to go to for cases of violence against women and children.
I extend my deepest gratitude to you, to the San Miguel family, for opening this center here in Quezon City, where the problems are most deeply felt.
The center is beyond providing underprivileged women access to physical and mental health services. It also aims to create a safe space for them to discuss and find solutions together. Because when empowered women work as one, great things can happen. Paige Javier, CNN Philippines.
We continue to honor women this month by recognizing those who have made a lasting impact on us. We asked you, who's the woman that inspires you the most? Female sports icons immediately came to mind for this netizen, including the likes of volleyball players Saori Kimura from Japan and our very own Eliza Valdez. Women in politics also came up, with this person admiring Vice President Leni Robredo's leadership. And a common answer among several netizens, none other than their dedicated mothers. This person paid tribute to all hardworking moms who have become a source of light at home. Another netizen brings more inspiring figures to light, like her grandmother, her aunts, and all the female teachers who helped her from elementary to college. Happy International Women's Day to everyone. Here's to breaking the bias and empowering one another to remain strong and confident. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. and on Politics as usual at 8:30 p.m. I'm Pio Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by
RPN Regional AM radio stations nationwide welcomes CNN Philippines, a first on radio. To bring you the latest news you can use, news you can trust. Listen to Newsnight, weekdays 6 p.m.
We now go above and beyond the headlines,
followed by Med Talk, Health Talk.
We'll talk about how to keep ourselves healthy during the pandemic.
Politics as usual.
Our guests for tonight, two political science professors.
Up close and more. Catch CNN Philippines in all RPN AM radio stations. Weekdays, 6 to 7 p.m. CNN Philippines Hour.
DYKB Radio
Senatorial candidate and labor lawyer Luke Espiritu goes viral after getting into a heated argument with two fellow contenders in a debate. At the SMNI senatorial debate Wednesday, Espiritu clashed with former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque and suspended lawyer Larry Gadon about martial law. That's after Espiritu said schools should teach children about the human rights violations under the late dictator, former President Ferdinand Marcos. Let's watch this.
I'll go by the
Bakit nyo isisisi kay Marcos yun?
It's my time.
We should not use this forum for a propaganda against the Marcoses.
Binuksan mo ang usapan, wag mo akong pagbawalan. I go by the record, Amnesty International, 3,257 ang pinatay nung panahon ni Marcos. 35,000 ang mga my time, wag kang bastos.
Kung ano man ang nangyari sa nakaraan, inisa-isa ko po ang records. Wala pong kaso for human rights violation sa Amerika si Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Sa isa ko rin po ang mga kaso na decided po ng ating Philippine Supreme Court. Totoo po, co-administrators of Ferdinand Bobong Marcos, wala pong kaso na siya mismo nagnakaw.
With all due respect to Attorney Harry Roque, I know your history. You were anti-Marcos before. You were for human rights before. Your life, you spent your life against the Marcoses, you work for human rights, and now that you were given a Senate spot under the party of Bongbong Marcos, now you cry hallelujah and praise Marcos.
There was nothing respectful with what you said against me. Ang katotohanan po ang pinag-uusapan, hindi po ang patay na Marcos, ang pinag-uusapan ang buhay na Marcos. Sa akin po, panagutin ang mga nagkasala, pero yung mga hindi po gumawa ng kahit anong kasalanan, wag po natin idamay sa sisi.
Espiritu is on the senatorial slate of Caliotti de Guzman and Walden Bello. We now go above and beyond the headlines with the man himself, ang sabi daw di bardagulan, senatorial candidate and labor lawyer Luke Espiritu. Attorney Luke, magandang hapon sa inyo.
Yes, magandang hapon.
I'm sorry, magandang gabi pala, sorry.
Yes, magandang gabi at sa inyo at saka sa mga viewers ninyo.
Okay, so bardagulan daw. You are our, in a very long time, our first studio guest, emphasis on studio,
yes.
Dahil nga alert level 1, no? Pero, alam mo, chinek ko yung Twitter mo so kagabi daw, mga 2,000, no? Followers mo.
I actually, I'm not sure because the Twitter is handled by my team.
Okay.
But of course, in consultation with me.
Okay, FYI, 17,800. As of 10 minutes ago.
I heard, yeah.
Pero ang kailangan mo, hindi Twitter followers, kundi boto. Tama?
Yes, we need votes and we need supporters and we need to create a movement against all of these lies that are going around.
A movement against all these lies. Okay, let's talk about last night's debate, no? So, meron kang sinabi after parang kulang pa ang bakbakan, gustong-gusto mong parang gigil na gigil ka at sabi sana marami pang encuentro with sina attorneys Gadon and Roque.
Because we need to expose these people. They are peddling lies about this chapter in our nation's history, which is the darkest chapter. And you know, it is really difficult if our new generation of Filipinos are learning these lies and imbibing the values of the regime of Marcos. Kasi yung regime na yan na hindi rumirespeto sa human rights at gino-glorify ang authoritarian rule. And if we have that as values, kawawa naman ang ating lipunan.
You didn't mince any words last night, no? Like as we showed, wag kang bastos, and then you were telling Harry na, you know, you're singing hallelujah to the Marcoses now. Ano to, Attorney Luke? Parang nothing to lose, you know? Just dish it all out.
It was not intended, although I think it's bound to happen. If you put the three of us in a room, it's bound to happen that we're going to argue. But it was never intended. I was triggered by the comment of Larry Gadon to a question about juvenile or children in conflict with the law. And he inserted a comment about priests teaching children about the evils of the Marcos regime. So it was a debate. And if it was a debate, you should be ready to refute that point.
To do a rebuttal.
And I was doing that when he interrupted me. Kung hindi niya ako in-interrupt, hindi naman ganun ka acrimonious ang exchange. But he did So I had to stand my ground. And then Harry Roque came to his defense, and I also have to answer Harry Roque. So that's what happened. If he did not insert that comment, I would just have answered the questions that were thrown to us by the panel.
Okay. Meron ka ring sinabi kagabi, no? Medyo nakaka-nervous kasi when someone, you know, politiko, kandidato, or lawmaker, you know, the minute you say, with all due respect, parang hindi totoo Parang bardagulan na talaga.
That's what we do in court. Because for me, our training as lawyers, if we may argue, and then heatedly, but then after that, we call ourselves pañero. And that's actually how we address each other, with all due respect. That's genuine. Because I'm not against you personally. That's our training as
Yeah.
lawyers.
But you are against what they say.
What they represent.
What they represent.
And we could have a heated argument, but later on, we could call ourselves Panyero, no problem.
Okay. Let's talk very briefly about your background. So you went to, well, you're born in Bacolod, so you went to school, the first few years of grade school in Bacolod.
Yes.
And then lumipat kayo dito na Manila, La Salle Grade School, Ateneo High School, Ateneo College, Ateneo
Law school.
Law School.
Yes.
No? And then, so college 97, 2002.
Law school.
Law school.
Yes.
Okay. Talk to us about that first. And, you know, because syempre people are wondering, no, parang you seem to have had a privileged upbringing. Those are the words that were used on social media. And it's not hindi naman siya, it's not criticism of you. It's an observation. Parang privileged upbringing, privileged background. And then you end up here as a labor lawyer. Tell us what happened.
Actually, my life is a contradiction. Okay, we were not wealthy. My father was also a lawyer, but he has to raise 7 children.
Wow.
He was
Okay.
a lawyer.
7. You are
7
number
children.
what?
I'm the youngest.
Okay.
And hindi naman kami ganun kayaman. Professional lang ang tatay ko. At ang mga kaibigan ko ay, simula pa nung bata ako, ay yung mga kapitbahay namin sa kanto. And tapos naging religious pa ako, naging katikista. Therefore, talagang ang nakakasalamuha ko talaga ay yung mga nasa underprivileged ng ating lipunan. And you talk to anyone who knows me, hindi ako privileged. At talagang masang-masa ang aking lifestyle.
Oo.
In fact, matatawa sila pag sinabi niyong privileged ako. Doon lang ako nag-Amerikana sa SMNA.
Ganon. Okay.
Yes, but if you knew, you really knew me and saw me on the street, talagang masa, napagkakamalan nga ako Kahit lawyer na, napagkakamalan tayong marami na, taxi driver, taga-ayos ng aircon. No one will say na elite ako. And that contradiction is what really contributed to what I'm doing right now. Because although my father is a lawyer, then that also qualifies us as middle class. Therefore, I could afford, or my father could afford to send me to Ateneo. Pero yung kultura ko naman masa, manggagawa naman, ang nakakasalamuha ko masa at manggagawa. Therefore, fusing the two, then my intellectual development will only lead me towards the workers.
So when you were in school, for example, Ateneo College, I went to Ateneo also, so you would hang out where? And then with who? What were your school orgs?
My friends were scholars in the Ateneo.
Okay.
Because the Ateneo, even from sa high school until college, maraming scholars yan Yun ang mga kaibigan ko. Yung mga binigyan ng free tuition sa Ateneo, and they were deserving students from the public schools. So you would see kung ano yung aking kultura. Kultura ko talaga, masa. And then, in the Ateneo, wala namang aktivismo at the time. But I was born in the Marcos era. So I was politicized at the time. My father was involved in a case, extrajudicial killing in Kabangkalan, Mayor Pablo Sola. That was a case
What do you
where...
mean involved in a case?
He prosecuted the landlord who was accused of killing the tenant farmers in Kabangkalan. And as growing up, those are the things that you see, you hear, and the priests in Bacolod were all activist priests. So I was pretty much politicized even when I was young. Pero walang aktivismo nung college ako until kasi bumagsak yung Soviet Union at the time. It was a time na medyo humihina ang aktivismo sa mga schools. So until law school yan. And then the Gloria Arroyo became president, and I could not accept that. And then that was the time na I was reaching out to different groups until I was so-called discovered by San Lakas.
Discovered.
Yes.
Yeah. But you could have, like, as a lawyer, you could have gone corporate. You were with, what is it? IBM?
Chavez Miranda Asiocho.
Okay.
Asiocho, the law firm founded by former Solicitor General Frank Chavez.
Okay.
Yes. I joined them in 2004 until 2008, and the reason why I left was because I told Frank Chavez when I was alive, I'm going to join the revolution. Yes, and
which revolution? Which one?
2008. Well, that was just a matter of speaking, but I'm going to join the mass movement. which will be
So,
fighting
kumbaga
for
dun talaga yung puso mo na you wanted to be on the labor front lines and picket lines, ganun.
Yes, at heart, I'm an activist.
Okay. What is it? We're going to have to take a quick break. Do we need to take a break right now? Yeah. Okay, wala na tayong break. Dire-diretso na tayo. Sige. Okay, I also brought up yung Ateneo background mo kasi nag-com arts ka, no? Communication arts.
Yes.
And earlier, before the show, I was asking you, com arts, why would you take com arts? And then biglang nag-abogado. And you said it was just a pre-law course.
Yeah, it was pre-law. I was not really into it. So I just, my aim is really to become a lawyer. It was a random choice in the Ateneo. I just wanted to breeze through college so that I will have a pre-law degree. And then I'll proceed to law school.
Okay. And, well, I was wondering also communications, which could mean that, alam mo yung value of communicating and therefore, value of communicating in a clear and concise manner, the way you did. No,
I learned that not from school.
Not from school.
I learned that from Ninoy Aquino. And from the great orators like Malcolm X. I study them. I study their style. Because honestly, I think that it's part of convincing our kababayans.
Okay. Let's talk about the legislation, the kind of legislation you would like to do if you are elected. Although, if you look at the surveys, parang medyo nandun ka sa
I'm
baba.
at the bottom.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. But, kapag nakita mo yung listahan na yon, syempre isipin ng tae, kaya pala ninenervous yung mga negosyante at mga negosyo sa kanya, kung quote-unquote, kung ano-anong naisip niya, no? The question here is, what's good for business and businessmen doon sa mga gusto mo mangyari, di ba? Like, you don't want any more, yung mga
Manpower agencies.
Manpower agencies.
Yes. It's not bad for them. It's not bad for them because the manpower agencies are useless. They are parasites. They don't have any purpose or importance in doing business. They are just another layer created in order for our companies and establishments to deny employer and employee relationships. We will do away with the manpower agencies, business will go on. And imagine ninyo to, Pia, okay? You hire a worker and then you give 10% on top of their salary to the manpower agency. You actually spend more for each worker. So for every worker you hire and pay 537 pesos, that's at least based on the DOLE regulations, based on Department Order 174, the manpower agency will get 10% equivalent of 537. That's 53.7 more that you pay for every worker because you have to pay the manpower agency. And I'm talking about the minimum. Others charge 12%. So why do they do that? Why would they spend more? But when the worker, organizes a union and proposes CBA, hindi nga nila nakukuha yung 53.7 pesos increase a day. Ang mga binibigay lang ng mga establishments natin ay minsan piso, 2 piso, 10 piso, malaki na. But they're willing to spend 53.7.
Yeah. Calyodi brought it up also during the debate, 750 pesos minimum wage. Do you think that's even possible? Is that something that businessmen, big business will want to do?
Yes, because salaries are really below, way below cost of living. And ideally, you pay your worker the cost of living. That's how the system works. You pay your workers anything that is necessary for the worker to be able to work the next day, meaning to say everything, food and electricity, anything that is necessary for that, that's what you pay the worker. And the excess of that is your profit. So, if you pay the worker his cost of living, meaning to say your profit is still secured. But the problem is, we pay the workers here in our country below his cost of living. Secretary Pernia already said that for a worker to be able to survive, he has to earn 42,000 pesos a month. That's 1,615 a day. And if you give 537, that's only, what, 1/3 or less than 1/3 of his cost of living. 750 is not even equivalent to the cost of living. Medyo discount pa nga eh. Because our formulation is give the worker 750, then we will have to look for policies to reduce the cost of living. Meaning to say, para hindi na gumastos yung mga negosyante, edi pababain natin yung kuryente, pababain natin yung tubig.
Naku, ang daming aaray dyan.
Actually,
Yung
matutuwa ang
may-ari.
negosyante dapat dyan. Kasi part ng cost of production niya, kuryente. Di ba? Ang taas-taas ng cost of production niya, dahil ang taas-taas ng kuryente. Number 1 tayo sa pinakamahal na kuryente sa Pilipinas. Dapat, pagka yan ang programa natin, pababain natin ang kuryente, para ang mga manggagawa naman natin ay mabuhay at mabumaba ang kanilang cost of living. Equivalent rin yun sa pagbaba ng cost of production ng mga
Baka
negosyante.
ang umaray naman doon, yung kumpanya ng kuryente, yung...
Ay, dapat lang, alam mo, yung sobra-sobra tubong lugaw yung kita nila. I also represented, the Watchdog Freedom from Debt Coalition in the ERC. Ang laki-laki ng kinikita nila, guaranteed, na return on rate base. Hindi sila aray dapat doon. Like for example, kumikita ka halimbawa ng 10 million sa isang negosyo mo. Babawasan mo yung 10 million ng 2 million. Mayroon ka pa rin 8 million. Binawasan mo ng 2 million. Hindi ka na ba magnenegosyo nun? May 8 million ka pa nga eh. Konting bawas lang para naman medyo makatarungan naman ang ating sistema dito.
Do you really think you can win? Or is this like parang the impossible dream, Don Quixote, going up against the windmills?
There are two aspects to the way I see it.
By the way, you have 18,300 followers now. I just checked on Twitter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Going back to that question,
Yes, the question.
There are two ways I look at it. I would like to adopt yung sinabi ni na Italian socialist, Gramsci. Sabi niya, pessimism of the intellect, optimism of the will. Meaning to say, when you look at things and evaluate things, you must, have the pessimism of the intellect. You accept what are your weaknesses and try to assess. But then optimism of the will, meaning to say, you have to move forward and fight for victory. And that's what we do. I see the surveys, mababa ako, pero that does not stop us from campaigning for victory. Now, whatever is the result, and then it will just be a step for us for further victory. We will never stop until we win.
Attorney Luke Espiritu, who took the internet by storm since last night, and now 18,300 ba? 18,300 followers on Twitter. Thank you so much for being with us. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat.
This Sunday, yet no other candidate seeking a Senate seat. 3 former officials of the Duterte administration will take part in our 7th CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum. Former Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission Chairman Greco Belgica, former Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo, and former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque will answer issues facing the nation. Watch them side by side as they bear their platforms and stances on various matters. That's happening.
RPN Regional AM radio stations nationwide welcomes CNN Philippines, a first on radio.